Hello and welcome to Unacademy, a one-stop destination for all the English medium civil service aspirants. Starting today, every Monday, please join us live at 2 p.m. wherein we are going to cover all the important economy-related articles which have appeared in different business-related newspapers. Now, many of you will ask me, sir, when you will cover these articles, what are the newspaper articles or which newspapers you'll be covering from? We'll cover articles from Mint, Economic Times, Business Standard, Business Line, etc. So for this week, these are the 8 important articles which are relevant not only for your civil services prelims examination but also for mains examination. So let me start with the first important article. The article that I'll be covering will be Prime Minister or Pradhan Mantri Surya Yojana. Now, what is the importance of this article? Many newspapers carried this article wherein Prime Minister announced on the Twitter or basically X now, stating that 1 crore households will be identified and these 1 crore households will be provided with solar energy setup now. Now, what is the importance? Let's try and understand. Point number 1. Government of India had set up a target of 2022. By 2022, government said we will have 175 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity in India. Did we meet the target? Absolutely no. We were not able to meet the target. But definitely yes. Out of this, 100 gigawatts was the target for solar energy. And out of this target of 100 gigawatts, government ensured that we were able to hit a target of or a capacity of 73 gigawatts. But more importantly, if you dissect this number of 73 gigawatts, how much comes from the solar rooftop? Because whenever you study about solar energy, you will come across grid connected solar, non-grid connected solar, rooftop solar, etc. So out of this 73 gigawatts, the grid connected solar was basically 2.2 gigawatts. Now, this is very small achievement. We should have achieved more. We should have ensured that the amount of capacity or solar energy capacity that we have established should have been much higher. Why? As per various surveys, the 25 crore households in India have a capacity of generating solar energy of 637 gigawatts. Look at the mind-boggling number. 25 crore households. Total capacity potential is 637 gigawatts. And if you cover even a part of these households, even a quarter of these households will have sufficient amount of solar capacity in India. But as per the same survey, only around 1% of the households, I repeat, only around 1% of the households in India have solar electricity setup, which is set up or established in their households. Now, what are the reasons? We'll come to that. There are very important reasons why we are not able to achieve the potential, but we'll understand that a bit later. Now, Government of India, this is not the first time that they have announced a scheme to promote rooftop solar. Underline the term rooftop solar. There are various schemes to promote solar electricity production capacity, but specifically rooftop solar, this is not the first initiative. And to be very precise here, as of now, there is no clarity whether this PM Surya Yojana will be a new initiative or it will be part of an earlier existing initiative. For example, in 2014, Government of India stated we will promote the solar energy in India, and Government of India announced in 2015 an initiative by the name of rooftop solar, RTS, rooftop solar. The first phase was announced in 2015. The second phase was announced in 2019. Even before this, we had Jawaharlal Nehru Solar Mission, under which the target was 20 gigawatts. And even after this also, government announced another initiative by the name of Srishti, SRISTI, Srishti initiative. But having said so, please understand, different targets were established. We have not been able to meet the targets. So this is nothing new. One more initiative of Government of India to harness the sunlight to basically promote solar energy production. Now, if you want to find out, just for sake of information, factual information, which are the states which have the highest production capacity of solar energy in India? The rooftop solar, these are the states. Obviously, it has been heralded or leading the pack is the state of Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Rajasthan, etc. And apart from this, the right side you will also see how much is the addition year-wise installed capacity, incremental addition to the capacity over a period of time. Now, what are the objectives? What are we trying to achieve with all of this? Point number one, whenever government will promote rooftop solar, specifically targeting households, because under this initiative of Government of India, that is Surya Yojana, government says we are going to target 1 crore households. And please remember, this is for the first time an initiative of Government of India which is targeting a household. Earlier, the targets were generally the capacity, the installed capacity. Whereas for the first time, government says we are going to target number of households, that is 1 crore. Now, if at all we are able to reach the target, what we are trying to achieve through this? Point number one, the electricity bills of the households will definitely come down. The electricity bills of the households are expected to come down. Why? Please understand this. There's a concept called as net metering. Now, many of you will ask me, sir, what do you mean by net metering here? The concept is very simple. Imagine a household is there. They've installed solar capacity, or let's say they have installed the solar photovoltaic modules. They are harnessing the sunlight and they're converting that into electricity. Now, this electricity will be sold to the distribution companies. So, on one side, they will sell this electricity to the distribution companies. On the other side, they will also purchase electricity from the distribution companies. And the short form of the distribution companies is the DISCOMs. So, on one side, they will sell. On the other side, they will purchase because DISCOMs will supply electricity to them. So, overall, how many units they have sold? How many units they have consumed? This is basically the concept of net metering. So, the household electricity bills are going to come down. In fact, many households earn revenue because of net metering concept. Second, the households will become self-reliant. This is also very, very important. The households will become self-reliant. They don't have to be dependent on somebody else, the state government or any other government or the DISCOMs to supply them electricity. They can directly harness the sunlight and produce electricity. That's the second very important objective. Third very important objective. The Government of India at various international forums has stated that we want to reduce the production, or we want to reduce the reliance on fossil fuels, and we want to increase our reliance on non-fossil fuel capacity. That is, specifically speaking, by 2030, Government of India has given a target of ensuring that at least 50% of installed capacity in India, I repeat, 50% of installed capacity or electricity will come from non-fossil fuel sources. And as such, please remember, already we have been able to achieve 43%. 43% is already non-fossil fuel based. And out of this 43%, that is 30% of this is already from renewable sources. So, we are very close to achieving this particular target of 50%. Now, fourth important outcome or the objective, fourth very important objective. Government also on one side has stated we want to ensure 24/7 electricity supply to all of India by 2025. 24/7 electricity supply by 2025. So, don't you think if these kind of initiatives are promoted, we'll be able to reach these particular targets much sooner? And the fifth very important objective is that if I promote solar energy production through the households are spread throughout India. So, the concentration of production of electricity will not happen. Concentrated production will not happen. It is spread throughout India, throughout all the states. And more importantly, we do not have to invest money set up lot of infrastructure to supply electricity to hilly regions or regions with difficult terrain, etc., etc. So these are certain very important objectives that we are trying to achieve by promoting the initiatives such as Pradhana Mantri Surya Yojana. Now, having said so, I also told earlier that this is not the first initiative. Earlier also, there have been many more initiatives which have been announced by the government. Then why is that? Even today, we have not been able to achieve the targeted capacity. The reasons are very simple. Point number one, promotion of the solar electricity production, especially from a household perspective, requires awareness. Please remember this. It requires lot of awareness. The people should be aware of what is the importance of sunlight. People should be aware how can they harness the sunlight. So awareness amongst the people in India is very less. Second very important point, much more important, is cost factor. Now many of you will simply say, sir, in that case, I want to harness the sunlight. Right, apart from getting the vitamin, I also want to ensure that I'll be able to harness the sunlight and I want to convert into electricity, sell it and earn money. Very good. But now the question comes, how? How can you harness the sunlight? For that, you will have to spend money, purchase solar photovoltaic modules, SPVs, solar cells or solar panels. Install them and then you will be able to convert the sunlight into electricity. That is costly. Please remember, it's costly. Based on the household size, based on the requirement, on an average, they are supposed to spend somewhere around 2.2 lakh rupees to 3.5 lakh rupees. It's not affordable for all the houses, especially in India, where most of the households will come either from the middle class or lower middle class. So cost factor is a problem. Third, even if the households are interested, they're interested. The expenditure is higher, but they want assistance. They want financing options. So financing options are also very much limited in India. The financing options are also limited. Very few of the institutions are coming forward to provide financing so that these kind of instruments can be purchased and installed. And most importantly, I said, net metering concept. That has become a hurdle. How? Imagine you are running a distribution company. Now, in your area, the government is promoting net metering concept, which means a household will sell electricity from you and in turn you will also sell electricity to the household. What if you will end up paying money to the household? Don't you think you will incur lower revenue collection because of it? Please think of it. Under net metering, you will end up paying money to a household if the household generates more electricity units and sells it to you compared to how many units you will be supplying to a household. So because of net metering, you might end up paying money to a household. It will affect your revenues. And if you're reading about the distribution companies in India, the distribution companies, especially those which are owned by the state governments, have been facing a lot of financial pressures. Many of these discoms are incurring losses. So at that point of time, the net metering concept will further reduce the revenue potential for the distribution companies. That is a precise reason even the distribution companies are not so much enthusiastic about the concept of household solar energy production. So these are some of the challenges that are faced in implementation of many of these initiatives of Government of India. So based on this discussion, I have given a descriptive question here. Discuss the potential and challenges of promoting rooftop solar energy capacity in India. 250 words, 15 marker question. Next important article. Government will not be reworking RODTEP. It is a WTO compliant, says officials. That is government officials. Now, what is the history behind it? What is the importance of it? Why this is being discussed in multiple newspapers, especially in the last 2 to 3 weeks? Understand the evolution. Point number one. Earlier, Government of India has announced or had announced a foreign trade policy 2015. Although it was announced as a 2015 to 2020, because of the pandemic, it was expanded till 2023. Now, under the Foreign Trade Policy 2015-2020, there was one initiative by the name of MEIS, Merchandise Exports from India Scheme. Apart from MEIS, there are many initiatives which were targeted by many of our trading partners, but understand the logic behind it. Under the MEIS initiative, Government of India simply stated that if you export these products from India, goods from India or merchandise from India, I will provide you certain incentives. I will provide you certain subsidies. That was the MEIS initiative. But on the other hand, India is a signatory under WTO in one of the agreements. Of course, India is a signatory to multiple agreements under WTO. There is one agreement. Agreement on subsidies and countervailing measures. And according to the agreement on subsidies and countervailing measures, if a country has a per capita income of more than $1,000 for 3 consecutive years, I'll repeat the statement. Understand this clearly. According to this agreement, if a country has more than $1,000 per capita national income for 3 consecutive years, such a country is not allowed to provide export-linked subsidies. So, looking at this initiative, many of the trading partners dragged India to WTO dispute settlement body, and the dispute settlement body ruled in favor of other countries and against India, and told India that these subsidies are not according to the WTO guidelines. These are not fair trade policies. You will have to withdraw them. That is the precise reason MEIS has been withdrawn, SEIS has been suspended, etc. Now, on one side, we have withdrawn these subsidy-linked schemes, or let's say export-linked subsidy schemes. But on the other side, we want to promote more and more exports. That is natural. We want more and more exports of goods and services to happen from India to rest of the world. So, what we have done, instead of MEIS and SAS, etc., today we have one more initiative of Government of India, RODTEP, Remission of Duties and Taxes on Export Products. Now, what is the basic idea of RODTEP? Under RODTEP, government says, listen to this very carefully. Government says, whenever there is a manufacturing of a product for export purposes, there are certain taxes which are paid at local level, state level and central level. And these taxes, they will call it as embedded taxes. What is the meaning of embedded taxes? The taxes which have been paid, but they have not been refunded. They have not been given to the manufacturer or the exporter. And many of you will be confused. What is this idea, sir? How is this relevant to exports? Let's start with a very simple example. Imagine you're manufacturing this and you want to export it to USA. In the process of manufacturing this marker, you have paid fuel taxes, you have paid electricity duties, etc. Now, none of these duties or taxes are given back to you, are credited back to you, because if you know, under GST, electricity doesn't attract a GST as of now. Petrol, diesel, there is no rate of GST on this as of now. So, because you have manufactured it to export and some of the taxes you have paid are not given back to you, automatically the market price of the product will include the taxes and duties. And government says this is not according to the international principle, wherein every export or any export of a good or service, the price should not include taxes. The price should not include duties. That is a concept of zero rating of exports. So, the argument under RODTEP is very simple. We will identify what are the embedded taxes and we will give it back to you, so that we will promote a zero rating of exports, and also will ensure that our exports will become more competitive in the international market. With that objective, we have implemented RODTEP. Now, very recently, European Union, some of the countries there and USA have stated that even RODTEP scheme is a subsidy scheme. Even under this, export-linked subsidies are being provided. Hence, what they have done, they have identified certain exports from India and they have imposed countervailing duties. These countries have imposed countervailing duties on some of the exports from India into their territory. Now UPSC can ask you even about countervailing duties. So please understand this. Countervailing duties are also referred to as anti-subsidy duties. That is, a country which is exporting a product, the government there, if they provide subsidy, I'll repeat, I'll take example of India only. India is exporting a product. If government of India provides a subsidy, then receiving country can impose additional duties which is called as countervailing duties to offset the subsidy advantage of Indian exporter. And that is the reason these are also referred to as anti-subsidy duties. So government of USA as well as some of the countries in European Union have identified certain products of India and they have imposed countervailing duties. And their argument is simple. They say, we sent investigators, and whenever these investigators went to these factories, the manufacturers basically said, RODTEP is a subsidy. RODTEP is a subsidy. When they are exporting, they are receiving certain subsidy. And that is the reason now government of India has started this initiative or has taken certain measures where government says, we'll start preparing these manufacturers. We'll start giving information to these manufacturers, because many of them do not understand what do they mean by export linked subsidy. What do you mean by embedded taxes, etc. So we'll start telling them, we'll start ensuring that they will have sufficient documents to prove that they have paid electricity duties and that duty has been given back by government. They have paid fuel taxes and that has been given back by the government. So that is what is being discussed in this article here. And government says we are not going to rework RODTEP. It is perfectly compliant. Whatever are the provisions of WTO, we are following them. Hence, we will not be working or reworking or revamping the remission of duties and taxes on export products. Now, based on this, I have given an MCQ. Consider the following regarding RODTEP. Statement 1. It is administered by the External Affairs Ministry. Most of you will feel, okay, exports, External Affairs Ministry. No, this is wrong. It is administered by Ministry of Finance. Second one, it will help in zero rating of exports. Yes, definitely yes. The main objective of RODTEP is to provide zero rating of exports. The benefit is available for manufacturers whether the products are exported or consumed in the domestic market. No, please understand this. RODTEP is specifically for exporters, not for the manufacturers who will sell in the domestic market. No, it is specifically targeting exporters. So second statement is correct. Right option will be option A. Only one of the statements is correct. Okay. Now next article. Government guarantees on a rising trend in 12 states. Those who have read today's Hindu newspaper, please check this. There is an article in today's Hindu newspaper only. There is an article regarding the same thing. That is, there is an article under explained concept or discussed concept where they have written a small article regarding Reserve Bank of India's guidelines regarding state borrowings or state guarantees. Now, what is this concept of state guarantees? Let's start with the basics here. Imagine, let's start with simple exercise. Imagine you are a chief minister, maybe a chief minister of Bihar. Okay, just imagine. At least you will enjoy this way. So imagine you are the chief minister of Bihar. Obviously, every year you will allocate funds in a budget. Some of the enterprises which are owned by the government, not by you per se, but the government, state government. Let's say there are certain companies, enterprises. These public sector enterprises, that is specifically state public sector enterprises, they want to spend money and develop certain infrastructure. Okay, they want to spend money, develop infrastructure. But the amount of funds you have allocated in the budget are not sufficient. And let's say now this public sector enterprise will borrow money, will take a loan from a bank. I'm just giving you one example. The state guarantees can be provided for urban local bodies, can be provided for many other authorities. I'm taking one example out of it. So here is a public sector enterprise. They have borrowed money from a bank, they have taken loan from a bank and they want to develop this infrastructure. But there is one concern here. The bank says, I should get a guarantee. Somebody should provide a guarantee to me, because what if this public sector enterprise is not in a position to repay the loan in the future? What if they incur losses? What if they shut down? So there should be someone who will provide guarantee to me. And that guarantee on behalf of this public sector enterprise is provided by the state government. All of you okay with the concept of guarantee here? And what is the meaning of it? If this public sector enterprise doesn't repay, then this amount will be repaid to the bank by the state government. In simple terms, the state government guarantees the payment either through public sector enterprise or from the coffers, from the amount that is there with the state government. These are also referred to as contingent liabilities. Please remember the term here. These are also referred to as contingent liabilities. What do you mean by contingent liability? Contingent liabilities are those which will fructify, which will become effective in a future based on certain event. I'll explain this, don't worry. Contingent liabilities are those which will materialize, which will crystallize based on the outcome of a future event. For example, if I say all of you will earn sufficient amount of money if you become IAS officers. So do you understand the meaning here? You will be having a very good quality of life if you become IAS officers. Again, it doesn't mean that those who are not IAS officers do not have a quality of life or do not have sufficient money. Argument is, if you become IAS officer, based on the future event, certain outcome will be happening. In this example, if the public sector enterprise doesn't pay, I repeat, if the public sector enterprise doesn't pay, only then this will become a liability. The payment has to be done by the state government. Hence, these are called as contingent liabilities. Now, what are the observations? Why is this article so important? Observations are very simple. Reserve Bank of India looked at the situation of rising guarantees of the state governments and set up a working group. And this working group has submitted a report, and this report has been made public by Reserve Bank of India. And that is the reason a lot of discussions happening regarding state guarantees now. Now, what are the observations? Please look at the graphical representation here. You don't have to remember all the graphs here. Just remember simple points. You will realize that the guarantees given by state governments, many of the state governments have been increasing. And not just that, over a period of time, the total guarantees given by the state governments also has been rising. As per the data that has been published by Reserve Bank of India, back in the year fiscal 17, the guarantees which were given by the states amounted to around 3 trillion rupees. Around 3 trillion rupees. And by financial year 24, this has ballooned, this has increased to more than 9.4 trillion rupees. So in a span of 7 to 8 years, the guarantees which have been given by the state governments have increased by more than 200%. That's a very, very huge increase. Now, what is the risk here? What is the problem if they provide guarantees and if the guarantees are increasing? The problem is that, point number one, please understand this. What if the borrower is not in a position to repay this? So don't you think over a period of time, if the companies on whose borrowing the states have given guarantees, if these companies incur losses, the liabilities will crystallize. Liabilities have to be paid by the state government. So over a period of time, let's say after 5 years, after 7 years, when the company doesn't repay, the deficit of the state government can start increasing. I hope you understand this. The deficit of the state government can start increasing. Expenditure of the state government can start increasing. That is a concern. That is a concern. Because if the companies are earning profits, enjoying profits, nothing wrong. But if these companies start incurring losses, there will be a big problem for the state governments who have provided guarantees for these kind of borrowings. So what has the committee stated? What are the recommendations of this working group? Point number one, listen to these recommendations very carefully. Point number one, the working group states that whenever the states will provide these guarantees, there should be a limit. There should be a ceiling. They cannot keep on providing guarantees for all these kind of borrowings. There should be a ceiling for it. How much? 0.5% of gross state domestic product or 0.5% of revenue receipts. I'll repeat it. 0.5% of gross state domestic product or 5% of revenue receipts, whichever is lower. So from 1 year to next year, incremental guarantees should not be more than this. Point number 2, whenever the guarantees are provided, the value of the guarantee should not be more than 80% of the project cost. It should not be more than 80%. Point number 3, whenever these guarantees are provided, the state government should clarify for what purpose they are providing the guarantee. Give clarification, be very clear regarding for what purpose you are providing these guarantees for. Next point, these guarantees cannot be provided for external commercial borrowings. Right? Remember, external commercial borrowings, these guarantees by the state government cannot be provided. Next, in the finance department, there should be a unit set up. I repeat, in the financial department of the state government, there should be a unit set up. And what is the role? What is the function of this unit? They should keep a track of all of these guarantees. This state government is providing guarantee for which loan? How much is the guarantee? And what is the total guarantees provided by the state government? They should keep a track. Next, from one borrower to another borrower, there will be difference. Based on their past repayment, based on their performance, etc., there will be a lot of difference. So the committee or the group says there should be a concept of risk-based weightage. Risk-based weightage. So one borrower to another borrower have a risk-based weightage. Assess the total guarantees that you have provided based on the risk, based on the type of loan, based on the borrower, etc. So these are certain very, very important recommendations which have been provided by this working group to Reserve Bank of India, and this is there in the discussion. Please be very, very careful. Now, based on this, I've given a question here. Which of the following are likely to be the outcomes of crystallization of contingent liabilities for the state? Crystallization means the borrower doesn't repay, and as a result of this, the guarantees which have been provided by the state government now will have to be fulfilled. Increase the deficit of the state government? Of course, yes. Increase the expenditure of the state government? Yes. And increase the debt levels also? Debt levels of the state government? Yes. All the three are the likely outcomes of crystallization of the liabilities, contingent liabilities of the state government. So, right option will be option 3, all the three. Next, article regarding Switzerland and India reach a deal on free trade agreement after 16 years. What is the importance of this article? Understand the basics here. Point number 1, there is a group of 4 countries. I'll show you the 4 countries here: Switzerland, Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. There's a group of 4 countries. These group of 4 countries are referred to as European Free Trade Association. Please remember the terminology. European Free Trade Association. Now, India has trade relations with all these 4 countries, but within these 4 countries, India has the highest trade with this country, that is Switzerland. But more importantly, if you look at the data, more importantly, the exports that we do to Switzerland is much, much smaller compared to the imports that we are doing from Switzerland, which means in simple terms, India has a trade deficit with Switzerland. All of you okay with this particular point? India has a huge amount of trade deficit. And if you dissect this particular data and see, out of all this import, what are the major imports that India does? More than 80% of the imports that India does from Switzerland is in the form of gold. We import a lot of gold from Switzerland. More than 80% is in the form of gold itself. That is the second very, very important point. Now, India, after negotiating with Switzerland for more than 14 years, has finally signed a free trade agreement with Switzerland. And many of the experts have stated that, no doubt, the free trade agreement, this agreement will provide more market access for India. It will provide a market where we can promote more and more exports. But various experts also have commented that with signing of this agreement, India may not get larger benefit. Rather, Switzerland will get more benefit from such an agreement. Why so? Please understand this. And as usual, many of you simply say, sir, why is the government signing free trade agreements? We have free trade agreements with more than 10 countries. Why does government sign free trade agreements? Very simple. We want to promote as much exports from India as much as possible. Exports will not only bring in forex reserves, will not only bring in dollars, it will also promote production of goods and services in India. It will also promote investment in India. It will also promote increased contribution to GDP. It has a multiplier effect. So the argument is, why the experts are saying that India may not get a larger benefit. On the other side, Switzerland may get a larger benefit from such an agreement. Two very important points. Point number one, although we have signed a trade agreement, as already mentioned, India has a trade deficit with Switzerland. And under free trade agreement, generally what happens? The tariffs will be reduced and eliminated. The tariffs will be brought down and eliminated. So various experts looking at this free trade agreement are saying, because of this agreement, we are going to lower the tariffs and this will further increase import of products into India from Switzerland. So the trade deficit will widen. Trade deficit is expected to further widen. Now some of you will say, sir, in that case, Switzerland will also reduce the tariff. They will also eliminate the tariff and we will export more and more to Switzerland. So in that case, our trade deficit should come down. Theoretically, yes. Theoretically, yes. But look at the next point. Starting 2024, Switzerland identified certain industrial products. Whether these are exported from India or any other country, doesn't matter. Switzerland identified certain industrial products and stated the tariffs on these will be reduced to zero. We will not impose any tariff on import of this product. So now tell me, on one side, their imports into India will start increasing, and on the other side, we should enjoy certain benefit. How so? The tariffs will be zero for us. But majority of our exports, a lot of exports are industrial product to Switzerland. And as such, Switzerland has already reduced it to 0% for any other country which will export it to Switzerland. So that benefit that we would have enjoyed now will not be benefit. Rather, it is expected that our products will have to compete with many other countries, even though we have signed a free trade agreement with Switzerland. So these are certain very, very important points regarding India's free trade agreement with Switzerland. Okay. Now, if you ask me, sir, is this article important for mains examination? I would simply say no. It may not be relevant for mains, but please understand, overall idea of a free trade agreement, overall the concept of free trade agreement is very much important. For example, I'm pretty sure you have come across articles where it says India is negotiating free trade agreements with many other countries. Correct? Please read. India is negotiating free trade agreements with many other countries. India has signed free trade agreements in the last couple of years with many other countries, Australia, UAE, etc. We have signed free trade agreements, and we have also started renegotiations, review of our free trade agreement with ASEAN. Right? Very recently, there was one more article which said India has done very well by not joining regional comprehensive economic partnership, where a very important trading partner is China. So overall, the concept of trade agreements is very important, but this article is relevant more importantly for prelims. But please have an idea of connecting the dots to a larger picture of free trade agreements. Next article, government permits direct listing on gift IFSC's global exchanges. Now, what is this concept? Why it is so relevant? Point number one, we have a city by the name of Gift IFSC. I'm pretty sure all of you heard of this, Gift IFSC. Now, what is this idea of a Gift IFSC? It's an International Financial Services Center. But what is the importance of an International Financial Service Center? Let me start with a very simple basic example. Imagine you set up a manufacturing facility. Okay, you are fed up, you want to earn more money, you want to become IAS officer also, you want to earn a lot of money also. So side by side, you will set up a manufacturing facility anywhere in India, and right, by God's grace or because of your hard work, you will start earning profits. A very simple question to you. If you are earning profits, don't you think you'll have to pay certain taxes to Government of India? Correct? You'll have to pay certain taxes. But please understand, there are certain regions in India. There are certain regions in India which are called as special economic zones. SEZs, special economic zones. These special regions are notified so by the government, and whatever laws are applicable, there will be a lot of relaxations, lot of exemptions provided for the application of laws. For example, if you set up a unit, manufacturing unit in SEZ, according to the original law, there will be 100% tax exemption provided on your corporate profits for the first 5 years. Although that particular time period is over now, but understand the logic behind it. So, lot of exemptions, lot of relaxations are provided for you. Now, rather than manufacturing goods, what if you are providing services in an SEZ? I hope you understand. From manufacturing, now imagine this SEZ is service oriented. Service oriented means what? Banking services are provided. Insurance services are provided. Stock market, it is also a type of service. What about mutual funds? Type of a service. So, if there is a SEZ, right, you set up an SEZ where only financial services are provided, that is also an SEZ. And the specialty about GIFT IFSC is that it will be focused on financial services. Examples I have already given to you: stock market, mutual funds, insurance, etc. That is basically the concept of GIFT IFSC. For example, in a stock market, you purchase a share, sell a share. You might be coming under short-term capital gains tax. You might be coming under long-term capital gains tax. Right? So, this is one example. So, lot of these tax exemptions are provided if you trade in the GIFT IFSC. But please understand this. Please understand this. GIFT IFSC is not for us. GIFT IFSC is to attract foreign investors. It is to attract foreign investors. Now, you will ask me, sir, why? Why will a foreign investor will go to GIFT IFSC when they can come, they can bring their investment, invest in Indian stock markets such as Bombay Stock Exchange and National Stock Exchange? Why will they even go to GIFT IFSC? Because please understand, in the domestic tariff area, that is specifically outside SEZ, whenever a foreign investor will invest in a stock market such as BSE and NSE, they will have to convert their investments from dollar to rupees. They will have to exchange the currencies into a domestic currency and invest. Whereas in GIFT IFSC, foreign currency investment is allowed. Foreign currencies can be invested, which means, can I simply say, the foreign investor will not be facing exchange rate risk. All of you okay with this? The foreign investor will not be facing exchange rate risk. That is speciality. That is the reason why a lot of these foreign investors, in order to get benefits of tax exemption, to not face a currency exchange rate, etc., we expect a lot of these investors to go to GIFT IFSC. Now, in the GIFT IFSC, we have international exchanges, just like a stock market that we have in India, that is BSE and NSE. We have stock exchanges, international stock exchanges, that is India International Exchange, India International Exchange. We also have NSE International Exchange. And when I've written IE here, it's not Internet Explorer, it's useless now. It is International Exchange. So, we have India International Exchange. We also have NSE International Exchange. Now, Government of India, right, basically has made certain amendments, and through the amendments, now it is allowing certain unlisted, I repeat, certain unlisted companies in India to directly get listed in the IFSC global exchanges. These are the examples. These unlisted companies in India, they can get listed directly in these global exchanges. What is the advantage? Why has the government allowed this? Simple. One, as already discussed, can I simply say they will be able to attract foreign capital now? These companies will be able to attract foreign capital. They will be able to attract foreign investments. Now, many of you simply say, sir, why? What is the advantage for them? Why should they even go for listing in these exchanges? Why not in domestic exchanges? The reason is simple. Many of the times it has been found that the valuation of the companies are done at a much higher level in the international market compared to Indian market. My valuation, let's say I have a company, the valuation of the company in India is lesser, but in the international market, the valuation is slightly higher, which means by selling the shares, by selling these shares, I'll be able to generate, I'll be able to earn more capital compared to in the international market compared to Indian stock market. So we'll be able to attract a lot of foreign capital investments. That is the first one. Second one, foreign investors will not be facing any exchange rate risk. Foreign investors will not be facing any exchange rate risk. That is also a very, very important advantage for a foreign investor. Third one, investor base. Investor base. At the investor base in Indian companies, the investor base will widen. So these are some of the very important advantages looking at which Government of India has allowed the direct listing. Direct listing means these companies are unlisted as now. So these companies which are unlisted can directly get listed in the global exchanges which are present in the GIFT IFSC. Right? So this is an important article. Please be very, very careful. Now next, Finance Ministry raises import duties on gold and silver findings. Now before I start discussion, many of you ask me, sir, what do you mean by findings? Whenever you come across the term gold and silver findings, these are nothing but, these are kind of hooks. These are certain parts which will hold the gold ornament together. You must have seen certain hooks, right, in a locket or in a chain, etc. There will be hooks like this, or there will be connectors. So these are certain parts which can hold the gold ornament together. These are called as gold findings or silver findings. Now what is the reason why Government of India has targeted these gold and silver findings in addition to many other products, and why they have increased or raised the import duties? The reason is very simple. Until very recently, the tax rate which is applicable, on these gold and silver findings was 11%. Please remember this, it was 11%, the import duties. But these import duties of 11% can be divided into two components. 10% is the basic duties, 10% is the basic customs duty, and this another 1% is referred to as social welfare surcharge. Social welfare surcharge. And what is the use of social welfare surcharge? Please remember this. Whenever you talk about surcharges and cesses, the government will impose these types of taxes and use it for certain purposes, especially cesses. So 1% social welfare surcharge was there, 10% was the basic customs duty. On one side, these findings used to attract 11%, and on the other side, the gold would have a customs duty of 15%. So I hope you understand there is a scope of arbitrage. Scope of arbitrage, that is, if you import a gold, the tax rate will be 15%. If you import a gold finding or a silver finding, the tax rate is 11%. So government realized that because there is a scope of tax arbitrage here, there has been a huge inflow of the gold and silver findings in the last couple of months. The inflow of this has suddenly ballooned. So what has the Government of India done now? Right, understand this very carefully. The 11% has been changed. From 11%, now it has been made 15%. But more importantly, understand this carefully now. 15% is broken down into two components, 10% and 5%. So the 10% will continue to be the basic customs duty. Earlier also it was 10%, now also it is 10%. So the basic customs duty will continue to be 10%, but this 5% will now be Agriculture Infrastructure Development cess. I repeat, this 5% will be Agriculture Infrastructure Development cess, AIDC. And what is Agriculture Infrastructure Development cess? Government of India stated, we will impose this Agriculture Infrastructure Development cess on certain imported products or certain imports into India. Whatever money we are going to collect by imposing and collecting this cess, we will use it to promote agriculture infrastructure. Agriculture infrastructure will be promoted. So that is basically the idea that has been discussed in the newspapers. Couple of days ago, Indian Express covered this. Many other newspapers also have covered it. Now, if you ask me, sir, what should we remember in all of this? Please remember the concept of surcharge, cess. Please remember the concept of gold findings. What does the term mean? Suddenly UPSC can ask a question like this in the prelims. The term gold and silver findings, very often cited in the newspaper, refers to dash. The concept of social welfare surcharge, idea of agriculture infrastructure development cess, etc. These are important. Please remember, can be asked in the preliminary examination. Now the next article, India imports bull semen from Brazil to raise milk production. Important. As far as I am concerned, very important. It is important from agriculture sector, allied agriculture and allied sector, international trade, concept of Atmanirbharta or self-reliance, etc. Now, what is the article all about? What should you remember from all of this? Very simple. It is not the first time that Government of India is talking about importing, right, let's say certain semen products, or let's say semen of a bull from outside India, specifically targeting Brazil. Back in 2017 itself, this was being discussed. But there was opposition. Many of the local breeders or domestic breeders opposed this idea and said, no, we will not allow Government of India to import it. Why? If you import, right, let's say a variety from outside India, it might harm the domestic varieties. Right? So we will not allow this to happen. So in 2017 it was discussed, plan was dropped. Again in 2019, again it was discussed, again there was opposition, again the plan was dropped. Finally now, in 2024, Government of India, that is, there is an authority, please remember this, National Dairy Development Board, NDDB. So this authority, NDDB, has finally announced that they have imported 40,000 doses of bull semen from Brazil. What kind of bull are we talking about here? Please remember, Ghar bull. Right? It will be written as G-I-R, Ghar bull, or G-Y-R also. Both the spellings are used, don't get confused. Ghar bull, and interestingly, this breed of Ghar bull, 18 Ghar bulls were donated by one of the kings, one of the princes of Bhavnagar in 1940s to Brazil. So we donated these, right, let's say 18 Ghar bulls to Bhavnagar. In India also the Ghar bulls are there, but the concern has been very simple here. In Brazil, they have been able to protect these original species. They have been able to protect. Whereas in case of India, because of crossbreeding with various varieties such as jerseys, the originality has come down. And with crossbreeding like this, how much is the milk production? On an average, the milk production also has come down. So this original Ghar bull, right, which is protected, the specimen is protected in Brazil. The government says on an average, this bull on an average can give around 20 liters of milk a day. Maximum is 40 liters. On an average, it can provide 20 to 22 liters. Whereas in case of India, the average of milk production is around 8 to 10 liters a day. So Government of India on one side, understand this very carefully now, on one side has stated by 2033-34, by 2033 and 34, we want to ensure the milk production will be more than 330 million tons in India. The milk production will be more than 330 million tons. And just to put things in perspective, how much is the total milk production as of now? It is somewhere around 230 million tons. So by 33 and 34, we want to ensure milk production will become 330 million tons. And the reason has been very simple. No doubt, at one point of time, there was no sufficient milk production in India. But over a period of time, because of various initiatives, various reforms such as White Revolution, etc., the overall milk production in India has increased. But the concern is that whatever milk production we are doing, it is sufficient to meet the demand in the domestic market. I hope you understand this. Whatever production of milk we are doing in India, it is sufficient to cater to the demand in the domestic market. So over a period of time, population will increase. The demand for the milk will also keep on increasing. But on the other side, if we are not able to expand milk production, if we are not going to increase productivity as well as the production of milk, we might end up importing milk into India. We don't want to do that. And that is the precise reason NDDB has imported this bull semen from, right, or Ghar bull semen from Brazil. We want to utilize it and we want to have better breeds in India so that the milk productivity will increase. milk production will also increase, will become self-sufficient. Right? The argument is we may not even we may even produce to the extent that we'll start exporting apart from becoming self-sufficient of the milk products. Done. So these are certain very important articles regarding this import of bull semen from Brazil. Okay. Now the final article, very important article, oil marketing companies. OMCs are nothing but oil marketing companies. Oil marketing companies to get half of the budget provision for green energy. Now what is this argument? Why this article is so important? Two very important points. Point number one, in the current fiscal budget, the current financial year, when the budget allocations were done, the ministry, the finance ministry allocated 35,000 crore rupees. It allocated 35,000 crore rupees to the oil marketing companies. And what are these oil marketing companies? The public sector oil marketing companies owned by Government of India, Hindustan Petroleum, the Bharat Petroleum, Indian Oil Corporation, IOCL, BPCL and HPCL. So these are the three oil marketing companies. Government in the budget allocated 35,000 crore rupees funding. For what purpose? The government said we will divide this into two parts. One will be 30,000 crore rupees. One component will be 30,000 crore. And what is the use of this 30,000 crore? We can use this 30,000 crore to promote green energy projects which will be implemented by these oil marketing companies. Because please understand this, all the three oil marketing companies, all the three OMCs have set up a target year to ensure they will become net zero emitters. For example, IOCL says I will become a net zero emitter by 2046. HPCL and BPCL, they have set up a target of 2040 to become net zero emitter. So government said we will allocate this 30,000 crore rupees so that they can ensure that whatever emissions they are doing, they will control these emissions and become or help them towards net zero emission. For that 30,000 crore rupees was allocated. Second component was 5,000 crore rupees. Second component was 5,000 crore. And what was the objective of this particular allocation of 5,000 crore? Government said we will use this 5,000 crore rupees to increase our strategic reserves. To increase our strategic reserves. Please understand this. In case of India, we have set up a special purpose vehicle, right? A special purpose vehicle has been set up, and the objective of this special purpose vehicle is to ensure that they will purchase crude oil and maintain the stock of this crude oil. And what is the use of it? Whenever there is a disruption of supply of crude oil, whenever there is a concern regarding supply of crude oil in the domestic market, we can use these stocks and ensure that supply will be stabilized. Prices also can get stabilized. So 5,000 crore for strategic reserves, 30,000 crores in order to help them to become net zero emitter over a period of time. Now government says we will defer this allocation, or we will defer this idea of a 5,000 crore rupee to be spent for strategic reserves. We'll defer it. Defer means we will not do it now. When they will do it, no clarity or no guarantee given by the government. So we will defer this expenditure of 5,000 crore which will be used for strategic reserves, and this 30,000 crore which was allocated, we will not use 30,000 crore, we will simply reduce it to half. We will make it as 15,000 crore rupees. We will halve it. We will make it half to 15,000 crore rupees. Now question arises, why? And why should you understand these concepts? Point number one. In the last couple of years, because of various events, especially outside India, because of various events, there has been a disruption in the supply of crude oil. For example, pandemic. After that, Russia-Ukraine war. Now, during Russia-Ukraine war, the supply of crude oil was disrupted. The market prices started going up. Government said the market prices of crude oil increased a lot, increased by a large margin. Oil marketing companies did not increase the selling price in India by the same percentage. I hope you understand this. In the international market, because we import crude oil, refine it and sell it. If the crude oil prices in the international market increase by, let's say, 50 rupees, oil marketing companies increase the price by, let's say, 10 rupees. Don't you think that will lead to losses incurred by the oil marketing companies? So government clarifies, during Russia-Ukraine war, the oil marketing companies incurred losses because they did not increase the prices by the same margin at which they purchased crude oil. And this year, the crude oil prices, this year in the sense last year. So last year, the crude oil prices have softened, have come down. And these oil marketing companies have not decreased the market price by the same margin. Thereby, the profits earned by the oil marketing companies have increased. They have earned more profits. Hence, what I'll do, I'll not be spending 30,000 crores now. I will reduce the allocation from 30,000 crores to 15,000 crore rupee. Second one, strategic reserves. Where do we have strategic reserves in India? We have strategic reserves at multiple places, such as we have a strategic reserve at Visakhapatnam, we have at Padur, we have at Mangalore, we also have proposed to set up one at Chandikol, etc. So we have strategic reserves, and as such, if you look at the international comparison, the strategic reserves capacity is very less in India. As per the recent survey, only around 8 days worth of demand is actually there with the strategic reserves which we are maintaining in India. So Government of India initially, when the funds were allocated, said will purchase worth 5,000 crore rupees and will build up the strategic reserves. Now government says the market prices are volatile. Market prices are volatile now. There is uncertainty in the market regarding the prices of crude oil. So at this point of time, I do not want to spend money. Let me wait. The crude oil prices can further fall down. When the crude oil prices will fall down, become much lower, I'll be using the money and purchasing and maintaining the stock, maintaining the strategic reserves. That is the reason they have deferred expenditure of this 5,000 crore rupee and they have reduced this 30,000 crore rupee by half. Now, what is the larger picture here? Beyond this, does it have any implication? Yes, definitely yes. There are two very important things that you need to understand. Point number one, Government of India for the current fiscal, that is fiscal 24, had a fiscal deficit target of 5.9%. Had a fiscal deficit target of 5.9%. Please remember this. Point number two, government also had set up a disinvestment target. In the budget estimates, it had set up a disinvestment target of more than 50,000 crore rupee. More than 50,000 crore rupee. This is the importance. How so? Let's connect the dots. So target was 50,000 crore rupee. How much receipts has the government been able to generate as of now? Just over 10,000 crore rupee. Just over 10,000 crore rupee. So our target was more than 50,000 crores. We have been able to generate just over 10,000 crore. So don't you think automatically the total revenue receipts, right? Sorry, total receipts, revenue receipts plus capital receipts. The total receipts of Government of India would be affected by this, would be affected. But again, please understand the next point as well. Is it that overall revenue receipts plus capital receipts only based on the disinvestment target, can we come to a conclusion overall receipts will come down? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying disinvestment receipts as of now are expected to be much lower, which will definitely have an impact on the overall receipts. But on the other side, in the last couple of weeks, if you're reading newspapers, the tax buoyancy has improved. The amount of taxes collected by the government also has increased. That will definitely help in basically ensuring that the total receipts, revenue plus capital receipts will be affected or will be improved because of higher tax receipts. But again, I cannot simply say, sir, did we achieve these receipts or not, because let the budget be announced in a couple of days by the government. You will only automatically understand how much has been the achievement so far. Is there any course correction by the government, etc., etc. But as of now, if the disinvestment target, if you're not able to meet, automatically the deficit will balloon. Deficit will start increasing. You might hit a deficit of 6%, 6.2%, 6.1%, and that is never good. So Government of India will reduce this expenditure by half will basically defer this proposal to spend 5,000 crores, thereby trying to ensure that they will not be overshooting the fiscal deficit target for the current financial year. So that is the implication of this article related to overall government budgeting, overall government finances. So these are certain very important articles that I wanted to cover from the duration of 22nd January to 28th January. Again, next week on Monday, we'll cover a couple of more important articles which will appear in different newspapers in this week. So please join again next Monday for the discussion of important economy related articles for both preliminary examination as well as mains examination. And if you have found this discussion very useful, if you have learned anything, then please do comment in the section below. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and share this video with your friends so that they will also get the benefit of the discussion. Thank you. Have a great day. See you again next week.